So Jesus says there's going to be wars and rumors of wars. Well, you're living in the rumor of war phase here. Let's leave it there. You don't want the wars. But what's happening when Israel, with its sophisticated secret service, unlike the United States, by the way, goes into Tehran and takes out the leader of Hamas? Right after it takes out the number 2 guy in Hezbollah, they've got them rattled. And Israel's like saying, hey, we may, we're like David and Goliath, but we know how to handle a slingshot. We're living in days leading up to potential global war, and nobody's even talking about it. I'm going to talk about it today. And even more important, I'm going to give you the biblical calendar. Do you know that the month of the 9th of Av is where we're heading into in August? It's a day where almost all the great calamities that ever happened to Israel happen on that day. And we're in a period of time, it's a 2 to 3 week period of time, which is called the Dire Straits. That's what the rabbis call it, because of the history of Israel having disastrous situations during this time. All right, so I'm gonna torque you up with that. I'm gonna give you the information, gonna give you the biblical timeline on what's taking place. But before I go there, stress. How do you handle the stress that's happening every day? I've been examining my health and nutrition. Now listen to me. I'm up right now. You know why? Because I've got an immune system with a metabolism that's burning food and fat. I've got 29 probiotics and prebiotics working together in some extraordinary concoction that is the brainchild of my friend Jordan Rubin, who, by the way, has a product which is metabolism support. This is where the energy, the strength, the gut health is what they call it, that allows your system to be functioning at an optimum level, especially as you get older, dealing with the stress of everything. Mercedes, prebiotics, probiotics, you women on staff introduced this to me. Does this make a difference?
Huge difference. If you have any type of gut health issue, you absolutely need to be taking prebiotics and just what would you say? It's prebiotic, probiotics.
It combines prebiotics with 30 diverse strains of probiotics, postbiotics, and cordyceps, mushroom, ginger root, specially chosen for the support. I can have that ginger. Both. My wife's always eating ginger when we go out and get the, sushi. Eat the ginger. It's good for your digestion. But, it's built into this.
That's great. And you really need to get it. And it's both. It's the combination of the pre and the probiotics together. That's really the magic formula there. So, and nobody's better than Jordan. The stuff he's inventing over there is top tier.
I've gone to doctors. They look at it. They go, oh, this is good stuff. ancientnutrition.com/Lance. If you use the /Lance, you get like 20, 30, 40. You get a big discount. You can get more than one and get an even bigger discount. Just do it. Do yourself a favor. I'm not offering anything I don't take. This is in my staff and my wife and me. That's when you know it's working. ancientnutrition.com/Lance. Now let's get into what's happening in the world right now that you need to know about on God's calendar. We have this brewing conflict in the Middle East. I mean, my gosh, I can't believe I just got done doing 2 whole recording sessions, and I'm dealing with Venezuela, the Olympics, and blah, blah. Meanwhile, in other news, the Third World War is starting. So I think we ought to talk about what's going on in the Middle East. As a quick backdrop, Israel was attacked last year on Yom Kippur. We're heading back into the anniversary of that attack. And that attack, they still have people that are hostage, people that are dying. Americans have hostages, I think. Why you never hear about that, I don't know. I guarantee if Trump was president, there'd be a little icon in the corner every night of CNN, hostages day 431, or hostages day 321, or something like that. How many days American hostages are still there? The reality is you've got Hezbollah now, which is an Iranian proxy. The way this game works is Iran or Iran is the enemy of Israel, sworn enemy of Israel, all the way back from Haman trying to kill all the Jews in the book of Esther. And so they operate through these proxies, and they are Hamas over where the Gaza Strip is, and Hezbollah to the north, which kind of like oversees, frankly, Lebanon, on the other side of the Sea of Galilee. So it's very close. I mean, if you're in Galilee, you realize that you got to be careful where you go when you're driving around, because you make a wrong turn, you're right there in Lebanon territory. Now, these two entities, Hezbollah and Hamas, are both the scorpion sting of Iran. And I don't have to tell you this, but you might want to remember that Donald Trump had so squeezed the juice out of Iran financially that they were on the verge of collapse. And he said he had one more administration, one more term in office. He could have worked out a transformation in the Abraham Accords, even dealing with Iran, because of their vulnerability financially. Then the Biden administration gives them a surge of money for reasons that we could debate, $1 billion or $1 billion, enough money so that they could go resource their network, Hezbollah and Hamas. And Hamas then, of course, is getting a lot of global money. I had dinner once with Jared Kushner when he was in the White House working for his father-in-law. And he explained to me, he said, man, these guys are flying in their own jets. They're living outside of the territory. They're living in elite hotels in other countries, and the money's coming in from all over the world. They have no interest in solving a problem for their people because they got a fundraising technique here with the Palestinian cause. It's a money cause. So he said, it's not easy to come up with a solution over there. Well, that was an enlightening bit of information. But then I realized when the Hamas attack had happened, so brutal, so calculated. They had the houses and the names of the children. They had literally mapped out the attack. And in the warped world that they live in the Hamas education system, killing a Jew is like scoring a point in a soccer game. So the kids are calling up as they're killing them. Hey, look, I just got another one. Parents are, cheering for them in the background. Don't think that this isn't accurate. I'm telling you what took place. So Israel does not want to really have a two-front war, but Hezbollah has opened the front up. Now, this latest attack that happened a week ago or 2 weeks ago hit a Druze community. The Druids, or the Druze, is a subset. They're an unusual, kind of weird, almost cultic gypsy tribe within Israel, and yet they're part of the Jewish community. And when that latest missile hit a schoolyard and killed all these kids that were playing for soccer, it was kind of like an attack against innocent civilians. That it wasn't a military target. So Israel, in its response, Israel with Mossad has the most sophisticated, kind of secret service in the world. I mean, they go into Iran and they assassinate nuclear scientists when they get to the point of being able to produce the fusion formula for a nuclear bomb. They're scary crazy, which is why there was so much conspiracy theory about how did they get attacked in Israel and not know it. The Mossad are all over the place. They actually took out the number one leader of Hamas recently in Iran, in Tehran, in the capital. And this is why this is a big deal. They didn't take him out like Donald Trump had a drone that took out Soleimani because he was outside of the protected area. He was in the territory of Iraq working on another attack against Israel. And Trump said, you got him in a box, you got him outside his borders, boom, take him out. They killed him. This was going into the capital of Iran, which is supposed to be the secure location. So they have the Hamas and the Houthi rebels, and they have Hezbollah. They have all the heads of the almost like the five families of the New York mafia. And they're all there for the inauguration of the new president because the last guy got killed in a strange plane crash. They're there. This guy from Hamas meets with the new president the night before. Congratulations. And the next day he's taken out. I'm not sure the details of how it happened. Of course, Israel says we don't comment one way or the other about these things because we get accused of everything. So the feeling is, who else would celebrate the death of a Hamas leader but Israel? So here you have him taken out. Hezbollah, the number two guy in Hezbollah, which remember is the Lebanon part of the operation, he was taken out recently in Beirut with a drone attack, boom, in a section of the city that is headquarters for Hezbollah. So the Hezbollah number two guy, the Hamas number one guy, bam, bam. Israel is saying we will target the leadership that is the brains behind the assault against our people. Hold it right there. We're going to take a quick break and be right back. I've got something I got to tell you. We're entering a period of time that has increased hostility against people of faith. It's a time when Christians are going to be tested on a moral, physical, psychological, and even a financial basis. I'm here to remind you that God is the one who has blessed you thus far, and He will take care of you in the future. You have a divine responsibility, however, to see trouble and prepare yourself. For example, with record inflation eating away at the value of the U.S. dollar, the savings in your retirement account is in danger of slipping away. I recommend diversifying your 401k or IRA out of paper assets and into physical gold. And the best way to do that is with a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. Now that includes no penalties, there's no taxes when you transfer current retirement funds into Birch Gold. To see how it works, I want you to go to lancewallnau.com/Birch and get your free info kit, and you'll be glad that you did. Welcome back. Let's get into this. Now, what I'm going to do now is bring it into the Bible so you can get the Third World War scenario here, how this stuff is brewing together. Iran sent, thousands of missiles and drones, and weird thing is they telegraphed, they said, we're going to do something. And so it's almost like you have this symbolic act of punching at each other, but they tried not to escalate it into what's an uncontrollable world war, or a war where targets that are not just military, but civilian and infrastructure get taken out. Because then the thing expands. How would it expand? Turkey has a much bigger army than Israel. So the danger is that Turkey gets involved. Now, Turkey's supposed to be a NATO member, which means where one goes, we all go. And so that creates a complication. Erdogan had a good relationship with Trump, kind of a strange relationship with Trump. It was like two, I don't want to diminish Donald Trump's legacy here, but it was like two tough guys negotiating. And I was just reading the article when Trump wanted the Brunson. Isn't that the pastor, Andrew Brunson? Mm-hmm. Not to be confused with the other guy, Russell Brunson.
Yes.
who has ClickFunnels. One time in a broadcast, Russell Brunson was out. I thought, well, no, Russell Brunson, the ClickFunnel guy. No, Andrew Brunson, the pastor. And Trump literally virtually crashed the steel industry by putting a 30% tariff on all exports in Turkey. And he said, hey, you let the guy go or I'm going to do something. And Erdogan said, no, do what you want to do. And Trump said, all right. And Trump almost crashed the economy overnight. Well, they let Brunson go. And Trump wrote them and said, look, I'm trying to do you some favors and work some things out. Cut me a break. Stop being a tough guy and cooperate. Because if I have to, if you keep expanding this, I'll crush your economy. I can do it. And so these guys understood each other. But Erdogan would love to be the leader of the Islamic Caliphate. You got to understand the psychology of the demonized mindset of leaders. He'd love to be that guy that is actually leading the attack of Islam against Israel. We don't want Turkey getting involved. So you don't want Iran pulling in Russia as its ally or China, because that's how these things get out of control, you see? So we ought to be watching with great circumspection when Israel goes into Tehran and takes out a leader. These guys in Iran are frustrated. Now, what can they possibly do? They're saying they are going to retaliate. They did their, 10,000 drones and missile attacks, and Israel was able to take them out with minimum damage. And so I'm not sure what they could do next. But what you need to know is this. The biblical part of our conversation is that Israel has patterns. And the pattern is that during the period of time between the 17th of Tammuz and the 9th of Av, every cycle of Israel history has been devastating during what's called the passage of Dire Straits. Now, this is what the Talmud and the Jewish and the rabbinic tradition refers to as this period. Now, why is that? The 17th of Tammuz is roughly June 23rd, and the 9th of Av is August 13th. So you got like this 21-day period where Israel was invaded by Nebuchadnezzar and he tore down their wall. It's where the first temple was destroyed on the 9th of Av. The second temple destroyed on the 9th of Av. I mean, you start having a pattern. This started this cycle of judgment and destruction and self-destruction in Israel during this 21-day period is historic, which is why I watch with great anxiety at times when I look at the patterns in the Bible and they line up on a timeline with what happens in history. This is news you don't normally get. So here's the deal. We are right now in the middle of the passage called Dire Straits. Why is it called Dire Straits? Because if a ship is navigating down a narrow pathway, and let's say that underground there's rocks and things, if they move to the left or to the right the wrong way, they rupture the ship and the ship sinks. If they're going to go back, they have to navigate through this very carefully and then turn around and come back very carefully. And that's where Israel is right now. They don't want a two-front war escalating with Hamas, which is kind of under control right now, but Hezbollah to the north, then expanding it in Yemen, where there'll be an attack coming from that part of Saudi Arabia. You don't want Saudi Arabia brought into the conflict. You don't want Egypt brought into the conflict, which is where the Gaza region touches. You don't want Lebanon engulfed in conflict and then have Iran dragged in because it pulls in Russia, and then the United States comes in. Things get out of hand. This cycle started when the 12 spies went into the land. Curiously enough, in the 17th of Tammuz to go spy out the land. And then they came back on the 9th of Av, and they gave the report, we can't do it. And that report cost 40 years of progress for Israel. So this 21-day period, or this roughly 3-week period, is a historic period that has an ominous timeline attached to it. So we pray. We pray for Netanyahu that he will have supernatural resolve, wisdom, and the key word here is restraint. One doesn't know. If he foresees, for instance, that he sees Trump on the horizon, he might have more resolve to try not to escalate things because he sees that Donald Trump could be a stabilizing force in the Middle East, given his history with Iran and with Russia and with China. If he sees that Kamala Harris and the Democrats are coming in, he'll notice that Kamala Harris snubbed him when he made his speech to Congress. She had a fundraising gig at a women's sorority or event of some sort. And so the symbolism there was she eventually did meet with him as a head of state. They had they had to meet each other, but she boycotted, along with a number of Democrat senators, the presence of Netanyahu. Now, put this in context. The news didn't cover it, of course, because the news wouldn't want to damage Jewish PR in the Democrat Party. But the Democrats should know that they had like 13 senators, and Kamala Harris herself, as the heir apparent to the Biden mantle, would not show up to honor Netanyahu. Obama had a terrible relationship with Netanyahu. Trump had a great one. So how does that play in? Will Israel decide that if it's going to do anything, it better do it now? Or if it's going to push, an accelerator? And the great unknown factor is the nuclear capacity of Iran. I'm reminding you of this because the narcissistic news cycle that we get stuck in is in whatever the shiny object is that our conspiracy theories are about in the U.S. And sometimes we're shocked to see something bigger is taking place on the horizon. But we need to be praying for the peace of Jerusalem. I think the devil wants to accelerate the timetable. I think the nature of the devil is impatience and lust and aggression. And that's the reason why we pray for an exposure of the left in the United States. We need, in the next 100 days, we need to have an exposure of exactly who is Harris and how is she an extension of the Biden's 4 years of policy, and how will it potentially get even worse in the next chapter if her policies of going after guns, defunding the police, opening up the border, legalizing 20 million foreigners as voting American citizens, moving with Biden's agenda to redo the Supreme Court with limits. If they can win and take the Senate, if they can take the House, then virtually nothing can stop them from completing the socialist breakdown and collapse of the United States. And it would be, in my opinion, Trump would be a mercy of God. Not that we deserve it. Mercy is actually when you deserve judgment and you get extension of grace. Harris would be the judgment of God. And if that's the case, then it's also a judgment on the church. I don't want to be depressing you with all this positive news right here, but the silver lining is that when a plane goes down, you get the flight deck recorder to understand what it was that went wrong. You want to get that information. Once you get the information, you're wiser. You know how to navigate. You know how to negotiate in the future. And so these things are not written in stone. That's why prayer is powerful. By the way, that sometimes is why a seer or a watchman can watch and see things developing so that you create an interception. Intercession is the weapon that intercepts Satan's agenda. If you can see it, you can, in a sense, resist it, block it, and veto it. I've always got people saying, you need to send President Trump this, certain. He doesn't really need our prophetic, prognostications, and he'll do what he does. The church has to do what it seldom actually does. Unify intelligently around prophetic insight regarding things that are developing. The first thing we have to do is over here in the United States, there has to be an exposure that rocks and reveals the real nature of what America is about to vote for. We don't want to have an illusion going into office. We want to have clarity. They have virtually turned every rock over they could find on Donald Trump and haven't found much other than what they could do is checks from New York with Stormy Daniels. Or paperwork in Mar-a-Lago. They're desperate. And that bid has really not succeeded for them. So he's a known entity, but he's been so damaged in terms of his brand by Leviathan, by the spirit that has been tearing at him. Not a little bit, which was done by all the books written by evangelicals and Christians who didn't like him because he wasn't virtuous and sanctified enough for their support. So Trump is a known quantity. The problem is Harris is not known. Understand the threat. Unless she is known over the next 100 days, in the face of all the glitz and bombardment of the Hollywood, tinsel celebration, if we can't pierce through that and have an expose of who this person is, what she really believes, what her agenda is, what her words are, and what her trajectory is, if the American people can see it, then they can make a wise choice or determination. If they can't see it, then we're in danger of electing the unknown and finding out later. Remember when Obama went in his first term, part of his mystery was he said, I realize I'm running as kind of a blank slate. People can write on it what they want. They would like to do that with Harris. Make her a blank slate that you can write on it what you want. Your job and my job is to pray that the fruit and the root of what is in America will be exposed so thoroughly that America will have a completely open face to see what they're doing. The Biden debate revealed his actual condition. Kamala's not incoherent like that, as much as we want to say she is. We have to be able to see what's their agenda and does America resonate with it. Secondly, we have to pray for the restraining hand of God until the 9th of Av over Israel, that at no point does it initiate a response or an attack that is going to put it in the straits where it's going to damage its ability to come out of it. Israel is not strong enough alone to withstand a war in the region with Iran, with Lebanon, with Hamas, with the rebels in the south of them, and with Turkey involved. That would precipitate a global conflict. We don't need it. We don't want it. So we pray for the peace of Jerusalem and the restraining powers of God to hold back the radical nature of war, that it will be controlled and under the hand of God. These are the two things that we're praying. And remember, Israel is in dire straits according to the Bible timing, and we pray for Israel that it will be extraordinarily careful and wise over the next 2 weeks in what it does as it comes into its next season. That's the main message I want to give you. It's a prophetic intelligence report on what's happening in the U.S., what's happening in Israel, and I hope you found this an update that'll give you an appreciation of how the Jewish calendar, Jewish timing, the cosmos actually overlaps with current events, and that we, with the Bible, can see and foresee what is taking place. And that gives us unique confidence and unique courage that God actually is in control of world events, and you have the power to intervene by intercession. We'll see you again on our next broadcast.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world